When my wedding was labeled an embarrassment, an incredible twist revealed life-changing truth. Sarah stood in her childhood room, gazing out the window, her heart heavy with anxiety. The sweet scent of blooming lilacs wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing inside her. It wasn't supposed to be like this. Her wedding day was meant to be a fairy tale, something straight out of a storybook. But now whispers and judgment hung in the air like an unwanted fog over Maplewood, her hometown. How could she? They said, shaking their heads. A potluck wedding? An embarrassment. Her fiancé Mark wanted a simple ceremony. He believed love didn't come from extravagant displays, but from the hearts of those who shared it. But in a town fixated on appearances, the idea felt like betrayal. Unable to shake off the weight of the judgments, her vision morphed into a cruel shadow of what she had always dreamt. As she rubbed her mother's worn quilt, memories echoed. Her mother, a remarkable woman who worked 2 jobs, had always been there, sacrificing for Sarah's dreams. With a warm smile, her mother guided her through those childhood dreams. "You deserve the world, sweetheart," she would say, always believing in magic. But now, facing harsh reality, Sarah questioned if she was failing her mother's legacy. The days passed, her heart filled with self-doubt, until one evening, overwhelmed, she finally opened up to her mother. Tears fell as she fought through the disappointment of what her wedding had become. That's when her mother, with eyes shining fiercely with love and resilience, shared stories of their family history, of their struggles and triumphs, and how love between imperfections had always triumphed. Each tale illuminated the strength and humility, inspiring Sarah to embrace a different vision. With renewed determination, she had an idea: a potluck wedding. Invite everyone. Let the community come together. It was a love celebration and perhaps a chance for the townspeople to redefine dignity together. But not everyone welcomed her plan. Mrs. Turner, the town's unofficial critic, was particularly vocal. Just when Sarah felt a buzzing positivity swirling around her, a shocking twist tore through her plans. A secret concerning Mrs. Turner was unearthed, revealing pain rooted deep in the past. The realization shook the town to its core. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the wedding day approached, confrontations erupted, forcing the townspeople to confront their judgment and prejudice. Sarah stood on the brink, her heart pounding, feeling the weight of a community's eyes on her, and silence thick with expectation hung in the air. Would they embrace her vision of love, as flawed and beautiful as it was, or cling to their judgments, and let embarrassment wash over Maplewood once again? As she took a deep breath, planning to step into her future, the weight of uncertainty hung heavy, inviting everyone to wonder. Would her brave stand carve a new path for acceptance, or would the ghosts of their perceptions linger, forever shaping their understanding of love? The morning of the potluck wedding dawned, bright and crisp, with the sun casting a warm golden light over Maplewood. Sarah stood in front of the mirror, her heart racing. In a town buzzing with rumors, she felt exposed yet hopeful. She had crafted her vision into something tangible, something that could reshape her community in more ways than one. Today wasn't just her wedding. It was a challenge thrown into the very fabric of small-town life. As she pinned delicate wildflowers into her hair, an unexpected wave of courage washed over her. Her phone buzzed on the dresser. It was Mark, sending her a sweet text that made her smile. "Can't wait to marry you. Love is the biggest adventure of all." That was precisely the spirit she clung to. They had always dreamed of love defined by authenticity, not superficial glamour. As she stepped outside, the sounds of laughter drifted down the street. Friends, family, and neighbors bustling with dishes in hand were gathering at the community center. Sarah's heart swelled at the sight. Despite the underlying tension, people were coming not just for her but for each other. She felt there was a shift in the air, a collective anticipation. But the shadow of judgment loomed. Mrs. Turner, whom Sarah had worried would stir trouble, arrived with her arms crossed. Her frown could have wilted the brightest flower. Yet Sarah resolved to engage her. "Mrs. Turner," she called, her voice steady, "would you like to help us set up? It would mean a lot." With a flicker of surprise, Mrs. Turner hesitated before softening her stance just a bit. "I suppose I can help," she muttered, her tone begrudging but not completely dismissive. The small engagement was a tiny victory. Sarah noted the hesitant acceptance, sensing that maybe, just maybe, this was where healing would start. Soon the center buzzed with life. Each guest brought something: a cherished family recipe, a favorite dish, memories intermingled into every bite. Children darted around, shrieking with laughter, while elders shared stories, weaving their legacies. There was a warmth that enveloped the room, mingling aromas of homemade pies, fresh salads, and roasted meats, stirring a sense of belonging. As the clock struck 3, Mark stood beside her, looking dapper and so undeniably him. They exchanged nods, affirming their commitment not just to each other, but to everyone gathering around them. "Let us do this," he whispered, squeezing her hand reassuringly. Just then a murmur swept through the room, causing Sarah to turn. Mrs. Turner had stepped up onto a makeshift platform, cradling a wooden spoon like a microphone. "I have something to say," she announced, voice shaky but resolute. The crowd fell silent, eyes resting on her as if recognizing the gravity of the moment. Sarah's heart beat heavily in her chest. Would this be an attack? Or was it an opportunity for understanding? The tension in the room felt electric, each person holding their breath. The whispers that had marred her day suddenly seemed distant, drowned out by a hope flickering in the air. "Today is not just about a wedding," Mrs. Turner continued, a tremble breaking through her stern facade. "It's about love, community, and most importantly, acceptance." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Sarah could see the reflection of profound realizations in faces she thought were set in judgment. As Mrs. Turner paused, taking a deep breath, Sarah's stomach tightened with anticipation. What truth was about to be revealed? Was this the moment they could change everything together? Or would old wounds remain open, unhealed? Mrs. Turner took a moment, scanning the faces in the crowd. Sarah held her breath, willing the older woman to continue, praying she wouldn't retreat back into her shell. Everyone was on edge, curiosity knitting their brows together. "I remember when my own daughter got married." Mrs. Turner's voice cracked slightly, shaking off the sternness. "It was a sunny day just like today. We had a potluck, and people gathered from all over town. We had some disagreements, some disapprovals. But what stood out the most was the love. The love that brought everyone together." A few folks exchanged glances, softening at the shared memory. Sarah felt a flicker of hope igniting within her. Maybe this was a moment of truth, something bigger than just her union with Mark. "Sarah," Mrs. Turner said, locking eyes with her, "I see you taking this step. And it scares me. You're pushing boundaries, and that's frightening in a small town. But what I've come to realize is that our kids are facing a world far different from the one we knew. They need to know they're accepted, that love is love, even when it doesn't fit our traditions." Tension spilled out of the room like air escaping a balloon. A few people nodded, encouragement washing over Mrs. Turner's features. Sarah felt warmth blooming in her chest. This wasn't merely a speech, it was the groundwork for a bridge being built right before her. Mark, comfortable in his role, stepped forward. "What Sarah and I are doing today isn't just about us. It's about everyone who feels like they don't belong. We want to celebrate love in all its forms, love that binds us, that encourages us to be better." The crowd murmured, some with approval, some still uncertain. Yet the air felt lighter. They were starting to see. Mrs. Turner continued, "Change is scary, but together we can create a community where love doesn't just exist in the shadows. Let us learn from Sarah and Mark today. Let us stop judging and start accepting." With every word, Sarah felt herself uncoiling. It was the acceptance she yearned for. The barrier was slowly cracking. Suddenly, a brave voice from the back spoke up. "If this is about love, shouldn't we be wanting everyone to feel welcomed? They deserve that." It was Emma, a girl from school who had always played by the rules. But now, here she was, standing tall for something she believed in. Sarah's heart soared as cheers of agreement erupted from the crowd. The streets outside filled with voices of support, a chorus she hadn't dared to anticipate. "Let us raise a glass to love our love," Mark called out, lifting a plastic cup with a grin that lit up the room. Everyone joined in, the clinks resonating like a promise. As laughter bubbled over and the spirit of celebration took hold, Sarah's fear forged into gratitude. Yet as the festivities continued, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that Mrs. Turner's words were just a beginning. The foundation was laid, but what came next was still uncertain. Would everyone truly be on board? As she caught Mrs. Turner's eye once more, a new sense of determination flickered within her. The journey had just begun. Would Maplewood fully embrace the change? Or would resistance still lurk in the shadows? The answers danced just out of reach, and Sarah wasn't sure if she was ready for them. With Mark by her side, she whispered, "Whatever happens next, I know we'll face it together." And in that shared belief, she saw a world of possibilities ahead, waiting patiently for her to step forward. What awaited her in the next chapter of love and acceptance? The laughter and clinking of cups filled the air, but Sarah's heart raced with both hope and anxiety. The way the crowd responded to Mrs. Turner's speech was heartening, yet she couldn't shake the tension tightening the pit of her stomach. It was just the beginning, and she knew there were those still likely waiting to express dissent. Mark, full of energy, scooped Sarah into a joyful twirl, causing her to giggle. "Look at everyone. This is amazing," he exclaimed, his eyes gleaming with unbridled enthusiasm. Sarah smiled, but the shadows still flickered at the back of her mind. Just then a familiar face broke through the crowd. It was Tom, her childhood friend, with a hesitant but earnest expression. "Hey Sarah, can we talk?" "Sure," she said, feeling the excitement in her chest start to dull. The crowd buzzed in celebration, but she was stepping into something that felt more serious. They stepped a little away from the festivities, where the sounds of laughter turned into a hushed murmur. I don't want to be rude or anything," he said, "but I just have to know. Are you really sure about all this? You know how people can get." "Tom," Sarah said, her voice firm but softened by the empathy she felt for him. "This isn't just something I decided on a whim. It's part of who I am. I can't hide that anymore." He sighed, the conflict evident on his face. "I get it. But what about the reaction? What about the people in this town? You know they can be cruel, right?" His words stung. She wanted to reassure him, to share in the joy that everyone else seemed to be embracing, but she could feel the possibility of rejection hanging in the air. "I know there will be challenges, but I can't keep holding back just because of fear. Love is worth the risk." With hesitation, Tom nodded, though doubt lingered in his eyes. I want you to be safe, Sarah." "Thank you," she replied, her heart aching for him. "But what matters is I have Mark's love and others are starting to understand. This is a chance for change, for acceptance." Just then Emma joined them, slightly out of breath. "Hey, can I share something?" she asked, eyes bright with determination. "After what I said earlier, my phone has been blowing up. I've heard from so many people who were afraid to speak out. They're scared too." Her voice held a blend of excitement and apprehension. Sarah felt a new wave of inspiration wash over her. "This is what it's about. People wanting to stand up for what's right," she said, excitement bubbling within her. "When we speak our truth, it creates a ripple. We're no longer just a few people but a movement." Tom looked conflicted, his brow furrowing in thought. "But what if someone reacts badly? You're putting yourself on the line for everyone," he cautioned, genuine concern flooding his voice. Hearing those words made Sarah's chest tighten. For every cheer of acceptance, there could be harsh words whispered in the dark. Still she met Tom's gaze, determined. "If we don't try, we'll never know if the town can change. I refuse to be ashamed of love." A moment of silence lingered as they stood together, the glow of celebration a small distance away. The upheaval brewing within the community felt tangible, and Sarah could sense that each voice mattered and that they could either stifle it or let it roar. The festivities were still vibrant, but now there was urgency in Sarah's heart. Would the town come together as one? Or would divisions deepen when the real conversations began? As her stomach flipped with both fear and hope, she wondered about the battles yet to be faced. When her phone buzzed in her pocket, she pulled it out, heart racing. It was a message from Mark. "We need to talk. It's important." Sarah swallowed hard, the atmosphere shifting. What news awaited her? Would it be another step towards acceptance? Or a moment of unrest that could shake everything she had built? The music behind them faded into a mere whisper, yet Sarah felt its echo pulsating in her ears as she glanced at Tom and Emma. The joy that had filled the celebration just moments ago felt miles away. replaced by a weighty uncertainty. She knew the message from Mark was pivotal, but a knot tightened in her stomach as she sensed a storm brewing. "I'll be right back," she told them, trying to keep her voice steady. She started walking away, weaving through the crowd, her heart pounding with each step. It was as if the joyous atmosphere had become a dense veil, obscuring everything except her growing apprehension. Once outside, the cool night air met her with unexpected clarity. She found Mark leaning against the old oak tree, his silhouette framed by the soft glow of the fairy lights strung above. His brow was furrowed, and the lightness in his eyes had dimmed slightly. "Hey, you found me," he said, forcing a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "What's going on?" Sarah asked, anxiety spilling out before her heart could catch up. Mark straightened, folding his arms tightly across his chest. "I got some messages. And I'm worried about the reaction from some people in town. There are whispers already, and I'm afraid." She felt her heart drop. Whispers. The term echoed ominously. "Afraid of what?" "Of being labeled the couple that caused controversy," he said, his voice low and serious. "I know everyone's excited right now, but what happens when that excitement wears off?" The question hung in the air between them, heavy and foreboding. Sarah felt the familiar tightness curl in her chest again. "But we're not an embarrassment, Mark. We're just being ourselves. After everything, we can't back down now." He stepped closer, searching her face for a hint of reassurance. "And what if that leads to backlash? What if it tears our community apart instead of bringing it together? Can you really handle that? Can you?" She shot back, sharp but fair. "I'm scared too, but love shouldn't be something we hide. This is a chance for others to see it's okay to be who they are, to love openly. It's time for change." Mark ran a hand through his hair in frustration. "I get that, but I just want to protect you. What if they lash out?" Her heart sank under the weight of his words. Protection. She longed for that too, but hearing it just reminded her of the risk that love inherently carried. "I don't want to live in fear. I want to stand in our truth, even if it shakes things up. What's the point of living half-heartedly?" His gaze softened and he reached for her hand, squeezing it lightly. "I want to stand with you. I do. It's just hard to know what's coming." And just like that, a shiver of hope sparked between them, a flicker of a shared dream that hadn't died yet. Suddenly, they were distracted by laughter erupting back at the celebration. The sound pulled Sarah's focus and she turned, her heart thumping faster. "What if they hear us, Mark?" "Let them come then," he said defiantly. But just as excitement danced through her veins, the sensation flickered again, replaced by a sense of looming uncertainty. She needed to know where they stood. Maybe it's time to address the crowd, really show everyone what this means. "Are you serious?" he breathed, astonishment laced with apprehension. "Mark, if we wait, this fear will only fester. If we believe in love, we have to lead by example." A moment passed and Sarah could feel the weight of collective hopes resting on them. But she also felt the imprints of doubt creeping in. As she took a deep breath, courage bubbling up, a sudden shout pierced the joyful chaos and sent a ripple through the crowd. "They've lost their minds," someone exclaimed, and a murmur spread among the gathering. "What now?" Mark asked, worry flaring in his eyes. Sarah turned back toward the celebration, heart racing. The crowd's tone had shifted, and she couldn't shake the uneasy feeling that something unforeseen was about to unfold. What could possibly lie ahead that would test their resolve? And would they stand firm amidst the wave of dissent groaning closer? Sarah felt the tension in the air thicken as she faced the crowd. Their laughter, once buoyant, now sounded tinged with disbelief. The murmur that followed the shouting signaled growing unrest. She exchanged a quick glance with Mark, searching for reassurance, but found only shared apprehension reflected in his eyes. "Let us go," she urged, her voice firm yet soft. "We can't wait any longer." With a nod, Mark took her hand, and they stepped away from the safety of the oak tree, entering the sea of people. The warm glow of the fairy lights fluttered above them, but the warmth of the atmosphere had been replaced by an unsettling chill. As they drew closer to the main gathering, they heard snippets of conversation. Faces turned, whispers grew louder, hands tensed. A mixture of mild curiosity and open hostility buzzed through the crowd like electricity. "What is happening?" someone shouted from the back. Eyes narrowed in suspicion. Sarah fought back the urge to recoil but held her head high. We want to talk to everyone, she declared. Her voice steady despite the pulse of anxiety drumming through her veins. Mark stepped forward beside her, his body radiating strength. This is important. We need to say something. The crowd stilled for a moment, and she could feel their collective gaze weighty and invasive. But she had to push through the cloud of doubt. After everything they'd been through, there was no turning back. With a deep breath, Sarah began. We know that love can come in many forms, and that it's not always easy for everyone to understand. But we've found something beautiful together. Something worth celebrating, worth fighting for. Then the shout came again, louder and more aggressive. You mean the kind of love that's wrong? The kind we should be ashamed of? The jeering voice cut through her words like a jagged knife, and Sarah felt the heat rise in her cheeks. She held her ground, meeting the eyes of the person who had spoken. No, it's not wrong. It's real and it's ours. We can't pretend it doesn't exist just because it's easier to make excuses or hide. Moral decay. A voice from the side shouted, and a ripple of agreement followed. Sarah's heart raced as anger and fear flooded her. But then, in an unexpected twist, she spotted Emma in the crowd, her eyes wide. She didn't look frightened, she looked defiant. Hey, everyone, listen. Emma jumped in, stepping forward with fire in her voice. You're not just ridiculing Sarah and Mark. You're ridiculing love in every form. This is a moment where we can choose to accept or reject each other. The crowd fell quiet, the tension palpable. Sarah felt the urge to cheer for Emma, but she kept her focus. She could see the spark of recognition in some faces, the hint of understanding. Mark took a deep breath and then joined the fray. For too long we've kept quiet about things that matter. What happened to kindness, to inclusion? If we are a community at all, we should stand behind each other. Unconditional love must thrive. This is our chance. The buzz among the crowd changed. Some shifted toward nodding and whispering among themselves, while others looked back, still unsure. But from behind the wave of uncertainty, another voice spoke up, a man who had always been a vocal critic of change, his face a harsh line of disbelief, but now there was indecision. What if you're right? What if we've been too harsh? The question hung in the air, ripe with potential. Sarah seized the moment. What if we choose to celebrate what makes us unique, rather than tearing each other apart? As the tension in the crowd began to ease, a mixture of hope and skepticism danced in the air. Yet, just as the overwhelmed relief threatened to spill over, a familiar figure stormed into view, a figure whose presence could tip the balance one way or the other. Stop this right now. It was Sarah's mother, her eyes blazing with authority. What was about to unfold? Would Sarah find the strength to fight for love? Or would her mother's reaction send them spiraling back into doubt? Stop this right now. Sarah's mother's voice boomed through the crowd, cutting like ice through the warmth of the moment. Sarah's heart sank at the sight of her mother's fierce expression. It was a look she recognized all too well, an emblem of disapproval, and a protective instinct she had grown used to over the years. Mom, please. Sarah pleaded, her voice firm but aching. We're just trying to talk about love. Her mother stepped forward, heavy and commanding. This isn't the place for this nonsense, Sarah. You're making a spectacle of yourself. Mark instinctively tightened his grip on Sarah's hand, and she felt a flush run down her spine. The crowd's gaze shifted toward her mother, a blend of uncertainty and curiosity, but she refused to let that sway her. It's not nonsense. It's real and it matters. Eyes darted between Sarah and her mother, tension in the air thickening like a storm brewing on the horizon. You don't get to decide for everyone. Emma's voice chimed in, adding energy to the chaotic atmosphere. We're all here needing to listen to this. But Sarah's mother remained unmoved. What will people think? You're in a public place. This is a community gathering, not a stage for your misguided love. Each word dripped with judgment, echoing harshly. Sarah's heart thudded heavily in her chest, resisting the urge to retreat as she fought back a flurry of emotions. She wanted to run but knew that would only feed into her mother's fears. Instead, she forced herself to stand tall, channeling the fire that had brought her here. Mom, it's love, she replied, willing each word to pave the gap between them. It's not wrong to want this. To be proud of who I am and who I love. I've waited my whole life to feel free, and it isn't fair to hide anymore. From the edges of the crowd, more voices began to speak. Let them speak. This affects us all. Love is love. Mark raised his voice. We're not here to shame but to include. What if we celebrated rather than criticized? The gaze of the crowd shifted back and forth, tension mixed with yearning. Sarah saw a flicker, some faces softened, their expressions nothing short of curious. Then her mother stepped closer, her brow furrowing as her lips pursed tight. You think this will fix everything? You think this will make life easier? A lump formed in Sarah's throat. It felt like a childhood echo, every doubt swirling back as if buried fears came to the surface. No, Mom. I know it, 1T. But hiding who I am has only made it worse. Slowly, an emotional tide began to shift. Sarah could sense the hesitation in her mother's stony armor. There was something unshakable hidden beneath the surface. Why can't you understand? But then a small voice piped up from the back. What if we listened instead? It was a girl from Sarah's old high school, someone who had once laughed at her in the halls. People deserve a chance to be happy. That whisper sent ripples through the crowd. The murmurs began to swell, a symphony of uncertainty and revelation. Sarah's heart raced. Maybe hope could flicker even in the darkest shadow. Sarah, her mother said, her voice softening as she searched her daughter's eyes. But what if this is wrong for you? The intent behind those words suddenly shifted. A vulnerable inquiry bubbled to the surface. Mom, Sarah whispered, can we just try to see each other? Can you see me? Time felt suspended as an invisible thread drew their gazes. They were two souls facing the unknown, intertwined in the struggle for acceptance. Then, a sudden surge erupted from the crowd. Answer them. Sarah felt the weight of the moment, filled with potential for change. Yet her mother loomed still, a towering presence on a precipice. Would the walls of disapproval crumble, allowing Sarah's love to blossom in its full essence? Would her mother take the leap of faith? Or would desperation reign? As eyes locked, the crowd leaned in closer, tension igniting anew. What would her mother choose? And how could this moment shift their lives forever? Sarah held her breath, each heartbeat seeming to echo in the silence that surrounded them. The crowd's collective gaze pinned her mother in place, an audience waiting for a verdict. Just give me a moment, her mother finally said, the weight of her words hanging in the air like smoke. She glanced at the faces surrounding her, hesitation cracking the facade. Why do you insist on this? I'm not insisting, Mom. I'm sharing. Sarah took a shaky breath, trying to steady her racing heart. Love isn't supposed to be a burden. With every word, she felt the invisible walls surrounding her mother begin to tremble. It was as if they both stood at the edge of a cliff, and Sarah was urging her mother to take a step forward into the unknown. Think about it, Mark interjected, his voice calm yet commanding. If you deny her this, what message does that send? That love is something to be ashamed of? That you should be scared of who you are? His eyes darted around the crowd, catching glimmers of understanding. If this were your love, wouldn't you want to shout it from the rooftops? Sarah watched her mother's expression shift, uncertainty flashing across her face like lightning. It was a momentary crack in her mother's armor, but it was something. Love brings people together, Mom, even those who don't always agree. Sarah could feel the tears gathering, though they burned at her eyelids. This is the first time I've felt free. How can you not want that for me? The murmurs swelled again, voices rising in a collective chorus of support. Sarah noticed a woman clutching her child's hand, her face a mask of empathy. Others nodded, eyes flickering with understanding of their own battles. People are watching, Sarah, her mother said, her voice almost a whisper now. I don't want them to see you differently, to think that what? That I'm less than? That I don't deserve happiness? The words flew from Sarah's mouth before she could rein them in. What you think they think of me doesn't matter, Mom. What matters is how I feel, how we feel. Time felt elastic, stretching between them as her mother's gaze dropped to the ground. It was as if they were both searching for something lost, a connection that lay buried under years of expectations. Just when the crowd seemed to hold its breath in anticipation, a voice called out from the front, breaking the spell. Look, we all have our struggles. But today we stand in support. Love is powerful. Shouldn't he come with conditions? The crowd erupted again in a wave of agreement, voices lifting like wind chimes in the breeze, soft yet persistent. Sarah felt hope stirring within her as if it were a flame reigniting. Mom, please, she urged. Can't this be a moment of change for us? Can't you see that this is about more than a gathering? This is about our lives. Her mother's shoulders slumped slightly, the fight seeming to drain from her. But what if it goes wrong? Then we'll figure it out together. If we don't open our hearts now, when will we? There was a moment of silence, a fragile truce between mother and daughter as they locked eyes once more. Then, someone in the crowd softly said, "We've all been there. Just give her a chance." Gently, Sarah stepped forward, not out of rebellion but instead an instinct to bridge the distance between them. "Mom, let us get through this together. I won't ever say it's easy, but I do think this is worth it." The expression in her mother's eyes shifted again, a flicker of hope and fear warring behind her composure. But the question hung in the air. Would she take that first step, or would she remain paralyzed in fear? And then the moment came. The crowd held its breath, heartbeat and pulse in sync as they waited for her mother's answer. "Okay," her mother breathed out, her voice barely audible. "Okay, let us talk." The soft gasps echoed, but before anyone could react, a loud commotion broke out as the doors to the community hall swung open, revealing an unexpected guest standing there, face obscured in the shadows. The crowd turned, confusion mixing with excitement. Who was this stranger that could change everything? The tension morphed into intrigue, and Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her feet once again. In this very moment, nothing was certain, everything was poised on a precipice, ready to tip. The figure in the doorway took a tentative step forward, allowing a faint light to spill onto their face. As Sarah squinted into the crowd, recognition hit her like a jolt. It was Claire, her childhood friend, the one who had walked away, leaving Sarah with more questions than answers. Suddenly, the tension shifted, and a murmur began to ripple through the crowd. "Is that really you?" Sarah called out, her voice both hopeful and shaky. Claire's lips twitched into a nervous smile, though her eyes revealed something heavier. I thought I'd come see you," she said, her gaze darting towards Sarah's mother before settling back on Sarah. "I didn't want to miss this." Emotion flooded through Sarah. Claire had been her confidant through awkward school dances, late-night talks about crushes, and all the little moments that defined their youth. The absence of those shared experiences had left an aching void. And now, while standing on the brink of an important moment, Claire's unexpected appearance felt like a lifeline. "Why now?" Sarah asked, her heart racing. "Why after all this time?" Claire took another step forward, the shadows giving way to a hint of vulnerability. "I heard rumors. I heard you were standing your ground. That you were brave enough to fight for what you love. I wanted you to know I'm here for you no matter what." The crowd, once abuzz with anticipation around Sarah and her mother, now turned to Claire, some curious, others openly supportive. But it was her mother's reaction that sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. She seemed to shrink further under the weight of Claire's presence, the walls she had built around herself trembling dangerously. "Why would you support her?" her mother asked, voice quivering. After everything, that question hung in the air, thick with tension. It somehow managed to silence the crowd again, like a dramatic pause in a play. "Because love is worth it, no matter how messy," Claire replied softly, her gaze penetrating. "I know firsthand what it feels like to struggle with that. I've learned along the way that denying it only leads to regret." Sarah felt a crack in her mother's defenses as the crowd shifted, growing restless, whispering words of agreement. She could sense they saw Claire's bravery mirrored in their own lives, the universal push against societal norms. "Mom, please listen to her," Sarah implored, stepping closer, fueled by a mix of emotions: fear, anticipation, and something akin to hope. "Maybe we can be free of all this judgment together. Look at Claire. She's fighting her own battle." Claire's presence sparked a newfound energy. It shaped the air around them, a shared understanding that connected everyone in the room. What had been a moment of uncertainty now crackled with the possibility of acceptance. Her mother took a shaky breath, visibly struggling between the need to shield her daughter and the yearning to embrace her true self. "It's not easy," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "What if I break all these traditions? What will people say? Does it really matter what they say?" Claire shot back, her fiery spirit igniting the discussion anew. "You matter. Sarah matters. And how you love matters the most. It's time to choose your love over their fear." In that moment, with Claire standing boldly in the light, Sarah's heart swelled. She realized that the fears her mother clung to, the anxieties that had long dictated their lives, could be rewritten. The love that bound them wasn't just between her and Mark. It wove around all of them like a warm, invisible thread. But then, just as clarity began to dawn, Claire's stance faltered, her gaze flickering over the crowd. I didn't come here for confrontation, I just wanted to support you. She hesitated, and for the first time the bravado fell away, revealing her own vulnerability. But now I'm not so sure I should become at all. An uneasy silence settled over the hall, heavy with the weight of unspoken words and unhealed wounds. Sarah reached out, her voice soft yet firm. Claire, it's okay. We need you here. Claire nodded, slowly, still unsure. But whatever came next would determine not just this moment but all the moments to follow. With emotions hanging thick in the air, the question loomed. Would Sarah's mother find the courage to embrace this evolution, or would fear tighten its grip once more, snuffing out the light they had just glimpsed? The silence hung in the air, dense with expectation as Sarah's heart raced. She watched as her mother's face flickered through a range of emotions: confusion, fear, and finally, a glimmer of understanding. The crowd felt a shared heartbeat, an electric pulse of hope that coursed through the room. Love is about choosing to embrace the messiness of life, Claire said, her voice steady, cutting through the thick atmosphere. We all want to be accepted, and we can teach each other how to love without fear. Sarah leaned in, her heart aching with belief. Mom, this is our chance, yours and mine. We can rewrite how we see love and community. It's more than just me and Mark. This is about our family, our friends. Let us stop hiding. Her mother stood there, looking small against the backdrop of expectation, but slowly she began to relax, her arms lowering from her chest, an unguarded gesture that made Sarah's heart leap. What if I can't protect you? She asked, each word laced with uncertainty. You don't need to protect me from love, Mom, Sarah replied, feeling the heat of 1,000 voices echoing the sentiment. What I need is your support. The safety of your acceptance would mean everything to me. In that moment, something shifted in her mother's stance. As if the invisible chains holding her back began to unravel, the realization settled in. Their lives didn't have to fit a mold or conform to worry. They could redefine family. Mark stepped forward, grounding Sarah in his unwavering belief. We're all here because we yearn for connection. Love thrives in acceptance. No one has to walk this path alone. Sarah could see murmurs of agreement budding among the crowd like spring blooms, acknowledgement shining on faces used to judgment. And yet her mother remained torn, hesitation reigniting the tension. Fear should never dictate what we value, Claire said, injecting a spark of passion into the room. Sarah and I chose to show up with love, even when we were scared. That's the only way we create a home. Tears welled in Sarah's mother's eyes, and the tension in the air shifted, lightning like a cloudy sky giving way to sunshine. Can I truly change my views? She whispered, glancing around to the gathered crowd. Change is ugly and beautiful, Sarah affirmed, years of unspoken words pouring into her voice. Just look at all of us. We're beautiful in our imperfection, and together we can fight for acceptance. The crowd reacted, their murmurs blended into a chorus of unity. Slowly, nods began to ripple through the assembly, faces registering understanding and empathy. Sarah is brave, someone called out, their voice strong and resonant. Why shouldn't we be brave too? And just like that, full dry-eyed acceptance manifested. Sarah watched as her mother's defenses seemed to melt, converting the lingering fear into recognition. Her hesitation was replaced with the gentle tremor of something more, the stirrings of acceptance. Then let us embrace it, her mother said finally, voice barely escaping her shaky breath. Let us choose love. With that, the air in the room felt lighter. Sarah stepped forward, her heart pounding in her chest, and engulfed her mother in a warm embrace. The crowd erupted with enthusiastic support, clapping and cheering as the barriers between them began to dissolve. Mark enveloped them both in his arms. The moment burst forth, radiant with possibilities. Tears streamed down her mother's face as acceptance washed over her like a warm tide reclaiming the shore. With the first cracked smile echoing welcome, the crowd surged forth, bridging gaps with hands clasping, arms wrapping around shoulders, all united against the shame of the past. As laughter melded with heartfelt exchanges, Sarah floated above herself, embraced not just by her mother's acceptance, but by a community awakening to the power of love. She saw familiar faces softening, understanding blossoming where judgment once anchored them. Claire reached out and took Sarah's hand, their shared strength knitting them together. The threads of their friendship felt unbreakable now. "You've created something beautiful," she whispered, eyes shimmering. "Love is powerful." Sarah nodded, her heart soaring. "And it's just the beginning." This moment was filled with promised love taking center stage in the vibrant tapestry of their lives. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in brilliant shades, laughter filled the warm air, weaving a narrative of hope and triumph. They would face the future with love, and every step forward would bring chance and change. This was their moment, a moment where everything aligned in unison, celebrating love openly, freely, and together. So the next time you question what love can do, remember, it just might redefine everything. If you felt inspired by Sarah's courage and transformation today, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss more exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the love. And don't hold back, comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Don't wait not even one more second. True fans like you understand the importance of uplifting this message.